What's up, Change the Channel podcast listeners? My name is Megan Grace, and this is another episode of Change the Channel podcast. Welcome back to the show. Can we just give you a round of applause for moving through whatever it was that the holiday season, most of December was for you? I find when I talk to people that this time of year tends to be the one that has the most just anticipation built up for it. There's this fascinating crossroads between tradition and lineage and desires and magic and hope, and also deep grief and stress and new people that are not usually a part of maybe your everyday comings and goings, coming together, what it means to be family. All of that stuff is not a one-size-fits-all experience, and child, you made it. If you are listening to this podcast, that means that whatever levels of bumps and smooth spaces, the celebrations, the tears, all of that, you made it. And let's just give yourself a little bit of a round of applause for that, because it's no small feat to be, anywhere from traveling to staying home. The weather can sometimes be unpredictable. The internal weather of yourself can sometimes be unpredictable. And you did it. So congratulations. Yay, 2022. You worked it out. Special shout out to my single parents that are learning how to co-parent your incredible small gifts and miracles, those humans, with their other parent. And maybe this was a year that they were not in your direct care, and you were brave and you were bold and you were so loving and opened your heart and your space for your kids to be able to be with, maybe their other parent and their other family. I see you. I love you. You are so brave, and you are raising the next generation. And we're so appreciative of you, and also just wanted to take that moment to recognize that it's no small sacrifice to not have your little ones with you. So sending that love, sending that affirmation. Also, for anybody that was once partnered and was not partnered this year, and that this was new for you and you were moving through whatever feelings that brings up for you, I just want you to know that you deeply belong in the Change the Channel podcast fam. I see you. I feel you. I have been in that first Christmas after feeling, and yeah, you deserve also a round of applause. And if I was sitting next to you, I would love to give you just the most massive hug and remind you again of your deep worth and belonging. And also for any of you entrepreneurs out there, let's give you a freaking round of applause. If 2022 was a year that you launched a business, you kept it going, you engaged with clients, you had massive successes and, some failures, some things that you just weren't going to repeat, but you did it. You put your self in the ring, in the arena, and you said, I have something to bring to this world, and I'm going to do it in the form of my business and my vision. And hell freaking yes to you for doing it, for getting on that, for having that vision, for moving towards something and bringing something into the world that never would have existed if it wasn't for you and your vision. And also shout out to those people that just have found love this year. And maybe this was the first time that you are celebrating, feeling held and seen and enjoying the spark of romance. I just hope that this was the most magical time of year for you, and that you had moments where the frightful weather outside allowed you to be a little bit more cozy with your newfound partner and love. As Lord knows, we could all use a little bit more love in our lives. Also, thank you to those that are mental health professionals in all sorts of capacities, whether, it's medical, whether it's more spiritual. You are basically the pillow top of society that's allowing people, when they really need a soft place to land, to be in your space, in your expertise, in your love. And Lord knows there has not been a shortage of need in these areas, and you consistently take the time to recharge yourself, recharge your body, recharge your spirit, recharge your mind, and you show up every time giving the best that you can in that moment to your clients. And we are so deeply and profoundly grateful. And so shout out to you, because around the holidays, I know that this is a time when there's more people trying to squeeze in that last appointment or needing to have that reassurance from you. And you have been the force that has allowed just a little bit of hope, a little bit of relief, a little bit of bravery to be infused in all of your clients, for them to go out and be within their family units or the spaces that they celebrated. So shout out to you as well. It just feels so important. And also on a personal level, when you have parents that are, everybody's always getting just a little bit older each year. And there were some really special moments that I got to share specifically with my mom this year. And every year that I get to spend a little bit of time with her I just feel grateful. So thanks to the moms out there too for being with us, for raising us in the best way you knew how, and for continuing to move along this journey of life and being just a couple steps ahead of us, for us to be able to see what you're doing and be able to learn from it for ourselves as well. All right. Well, I did not know that today was going to be a day of outpouring of gratitude and shout outs, but I'm so grateful that Spirit is moving in this way. And if you were not recognized by something that just channeled through me, just know that you are loved. And I'm grateful for you. So I would love to turn the table a little bit to this topic I've been thinking about today. And it's coming with, per usual, Change the Channel is moments of everyday living where I am engaging with life, and all of a sudden something hits me and I realize, wow, I'm at that Y in the road, that game point decision where I either get to lean into trust and seeing opportunity, or fear and shutting down. And I don't know about you, but I feel like sometimes the line is not that far between the two of them, but man, is my experience in the world different depending on which one I choose. And so this morning, I woke up in Portland, Oregon, and the weather outside was just wind whipping like she was on mission today. She wanted to make sure that people listened and they heard, and the rain was pouring down and the wind was just tearing through, tearing through the yard, tearing through my street. The trees around us were pretty affected. We will just say they were dancing with vigor. And I just remember this feeling of being like, that's really intense. And then I also was so grateful that the wind came through in this powerful way after such, a time of so many emotions stirring up. It's almost like Mother Nature knew, like, we need to do a deep exhale. And so as I was laying in bed, appreciating deeply the deep exhale that was the weather, I was gathering some motivation, and all of a sudden, dun, 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 the power went out. And it was really interesting because I had woken up on mission. I was ready to do something with my day, and a lot of that actually had to do with the internet, and a lot of that had to do with work, and it had to do with productivity, and it had to do with checking things off a list. And I had woken up with this surge of excitement to do it. And then when the power went out, I felt this deep sigh of relief within the depths of my body. Like, oh, if today isn't a day that I am out proving my worth in the world by actions and activities, it almost felt like nature wrote me some kind of a hall pass. And what was interesting is I didn't realize that I needed that hall pass. I thought that I was actively crushing it, and I had been doing, my proper amounts of self-care, checking in with friends, loving on myself really well, eating, the proper amount of chocolate and delicious other foods. But as soon as I checked in with my body and realized that the idea that things may have slowed down for something that was outside of my control, I felt a little bit of relief about that. And it got me thinking about the stories that we tell ourselves about where we find our value. Does my value come from what I accomplished during a day? Does my value come from having a job? Does my value come from my bank account? Does my value come from the impact that I make on other people's lives? Would I feel fully fulfilled if 100 people knew that I deeply loved them, but my bank account was low? What is that? What is that balance? Or the other way around, if I had, a smaller circle, but a robust bank account, what does that sit with? And I realized that as nature had given me a moment to pause, I could either sit with myself in a way of saying, if I don't accomplish something, my day is a loss and to scramble to come up with some other way. Or did nature give me, as she usually does, a beautiful sacred pause? Because the power was really only out for maybe a half an hour, something like that. But it was enough time for me to actually sit and gather with myself before I decided to go into the world. And I was able to offer myself the grace and changing that channel from you are what you produce to you are simply because you are. And wow, what a masterpiece you are to behold. I realize that this is the only December 27th, 2022 that my body in this form will experience. And that means that I get a say in what I do with it. And as I looked at the weather outside and the wind whipping around, she was not asking permission to show up in power. She didn't really seem to matter whose days she inconvenienced. She was moving at her own flow and her own beat. And I realized that, well, I didn't plan to be some kind of gale force winds that went through knocking out people's power. I get to also move through the world asking for a little bit less permission, a little bit less societal nods of approval of the things that I'm doing. And I get to actually see what is the impact that I plan to make on myself and on my day. And so with that, I really just zoned in on the idea that I get to feel all the way down to the base of my spine, which is where I tend to feel things around pleasure, play, my sense of worth, coming home to myself tends to live actually in my lower spine, which is sort of, I guess, a funny place. But have you asked yourself or asked your body lately, where does your body tell you when you are operating in sync with both your mind, your body, your intention, and your sense of wholeness and worth? And for me, when technology, was knocked out and I didn't have the opportunity to be using my internet and that sort of thing, and I could slow down and be quiet enough, and where work was, off the docket, even just for a half an hour. And I realized that my spine and sacrum was asking for me to sit with myself and remind myself of my worthiness and my belonging. And from that is where I was interested in launching my day and being a part of, a meeting that I have later on with my incredible business coach. Shout out to her, actually. She's another person I'm deeply, deeply appreciative of. Her name is Jenny, and she works with Higher House. Higher House is her company that she founded, and it's for entrepreneurial-minded business folks that are interested in creating the business of their dreams, but actually working with the energy that is their natural sense of source. She uses human design and is so delightful. And I remember when I was thinking about my day and thinking about trying to muster up something to be able to bring almost like an offering to Jenny as we work together, I realized it was because I was moving out of my center. I was allowing the world to dictate the weather within myself, and I wasn't allowing myself to be as free as the wind, which tends to be where I end up being the most creative, and I tend to be the most myself. So as I was thinking about meeting with Jenny and gathering all these things together, and the decision point whether I could see the fact that the power had gone out as either a gift to me or an inconvenience, I pivoted myself hard into seeing it as a gift and allowing myself to hang out with you on this podcast, literally put my hand in my low back in my sacrum area and just breathing into that space and activating and saying, I see you, I feel you, I acknowledge you. I acknowledge what you bring from the depths of my spine up to fuel the rest of my body and my being. You are where wholeness is housed within myself, and you remind me that I get to move in a way that feels easeful and pleasureful and delightful, and I get to lead from that space. And as I close my eyes, I speak those words over my body, hand on my low spine, then I realize I'm actually not depleted. I'm not tired. I just needed to refocus. And so thank you, wind. Thank you, weather. Thank you, Mother Nature, for constantly being one of the very best teachers. And so today I am going to let myself storm a little bit. I'm going to move like the wind, have that powerful meeting with Jenny, doing some work and some exciting kind of updates to my business, which I'm excited to share as well. And yeah, just moving in a space of profound gratitude. So just in recap from this whole kind of hodgepodge, this feels like a little bit of a fruit salad episode, actually, with like chunks of all of my favorite fruits all coming together, and hopefully the flavor ends up being something that's savory and delicious and nourishing. So we start with acknowledgement. We acknowledge what we've been through. We acknowledge the bravery that it took to do that. We acknowledge the people in our midst that sometimes go without notice, but are doing the amazing work that keep the wheels on this bus of humanity rolling forward. So deep, deep gratitude to you. And then moving into, am I affected by the world around me telling me what my worth is, or am I able to take a sacred pause and move in the direction of what actually feels aligned for me? And then if the power goes out, does that mean that my day is done, or does that mean that my true day has actually begun? So I don't know where you are in the world. I don't know if the weather is doing nothing or everything, but I offer you this gift to put your hand on your bare skin and your low spine and just say whatever affirmation comes to mind. You can't say this wrong, but let's fuel that part of your body that holds the play, pleasure, just the fun and engagement, the coming back to the whole reason why we do most of what we do in this world, to be able to live a life that we're excited about and proud of and we're looking forward to our feet hitting the ground and being able to start impacting more change. So sometimes we just got to fuel that part of our body a little bit more and just sending through the microphone some of this force of these winds out here, because if you're needing any kind of energy, it's right there. So go ahead and just put your hand on your low spine and allow your body to soak in that nourishment of acknowledgement from you, and tell yourself the things that you're so proud of yourself for doing. Like, I acknowledge you for being brave when you're talking to mom the other day, or I acknowledge you for showing up at that holiday party, even though it was very loud and we're very clear that you're an introvert. I acknowledge you for the way that you spoke so kindly to that stranger on the street. I acknowledge you for the way that you listen, the way that you love, the way that you learn. Doesn't matter. It can be an action, or it can just be the feeling of I acknowledge you, I see you, you matter, I'm listening, I'm here. And let's supercharge that low part of our spine, as the holidays have required our batteries to be used in one way or another, and so we get to recharge them. So thank you again for being on this wild ride and journey with me as I move through navigating the weather within myself and within community. And I'm excited to hear what ways you're changing the channel. What would you think if the power went out? What would be the immediate thing that you would think of? What are your two options? What's the normal channel, and what's the channel that you're changing yourself kind of into? I'd love to hear from you. My Instagram handle is the Megan Grace MVMT, the Megan Grace Movement. I am a somatic coach and body worker, and of course podcast host. So please feel free to come in, play in my world, leave a comment. Would love to hear how you're honoring your body, honoring your nervous system, and the various ways that you are changing the channel. All right, dear one, thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, wonderful rest of this week, and I will look forward to seeing you again on the next episode of Change the Channel podcast.